Picture this. You're at a social gathering. Someone makes a joke at your expense. The room goes quiet, waiting for your reaction. Most people would laugh it off, deflect, maybe even apologize for something they didn't do. Anything to smooth over the tension and restore social harmony. But there's a different kind of person. Someone who simply looks at the joke maker, unbothered, and changes the subject. No forced laughter. No people-pleasing smile. Just indifference to whether that person likes them or not. To most of us, this seems almost superhuman. We're wired to care what others think. Our survival once depended on being accepted by the tribe. Getting disliked meant exile, which meant death. So we learned to read faces, adjust our behavior, say the right things. We learned to shape ourselves around other people's comfort. But some people have broken free from that ancient programming. They've reached a place where being disliked doesn't trigger panic. It doesn't send them into a spiral of self-doubt. It doesn't make them question their worth. How'd they get there? What's happening in their psychology that's fundamentally different from the rest of us? Let's find out. Here's where it starts, with a profound shift in where you get your sense of worth. Most people operate on what psychologists call an external locus of self-esteem. This means your value as a person is determined by how others perceive you. Good reviews? You're worthy. Bad reviews? You're worthless. It's like living with a constantly fluctuating stock price, and every interaction is a transaction that sends your value up or down. Now imagine someone who's internalized their worth. Someone who's built their self-esteem on a foundation that doesn't require external approval. They know who they are. They've defined their own values. They've looked at themselves honestly, flaws and all, and decided this is who I am, and I'm okay with that. This doesn't happen by accident. It usually develops through one of two paths. The first path, repeated rejection that becomes so overwhelming, the person stops seeking approval altogether. They try to please everyone. They bent themselves into shapes that weren't them. And despite all that effort, they still got criticized, still got rejected. Eventually, something inside them broke, or rather, broke free. They realized the game was rigged. No matter what they did, some people wouldn't like them. So why keep playing? The second path, early secure attachment and strong self-concept development. These are people who grew up with caregivers who validated them consistently, not for what they did, but for who they were. They internalized that unconditional acceptance. They learned their worth wasn't negotiable. Either way, the result is the same. A person who doesn't need your approval to feel whole. Here's what happens once you've detached from external validation. You become fiercely committed to authenticity. Most people live in a state of constant performance. They're managing impressions, calculating reactions, editing themselves in real time. If I say this, will they think I'm smart? If I disagree, will they think I'm difficult? Every interaction becomes a negotiation between who they are and who they think others want them to be. But people who are comfortable being disliked have abandoned that negotiation. They've recognized that performing for approval is exhausting. It's inauthentic. And most importantly, it's ineffective because you can never control what others think anyway. So they make a radical choice. They decide to just be themselves. Fully, unapologetically. This doesn't mean they're rude or inconsiderate. It doesn't mean they lack social awareness. It means they've drawn a clear boundary. They'll be respectful, but they won't contort themselves to make others comfortable with who they fundamentally are. Think about what this actually looks like. They'll express unpopular opinions, not to be contrarian, but because they genuinely believe them. They'll set boundaries that might disappoint people. They'll say no without elaborate justifications. They'll walk away from relationships that require them to be someone they're not. And yes, this means some people won't like them. But here's the paradox. By accepting that some people won't like them, they actually become more likable to the people who matter. Because authenticity is magnetic. People can sense when someone is real, and it gives them permission to be real too. Now let's talk about how these people think differently about being disliked. Most of us have an unconscious belief that being disliked means something is wrong with us. If someone doesn't like us, we must be flawed, inadequate, or somehow failing at being human. It's a deeply painful interpretation. But people who are comfortable being disliked have reframed this entirely. They've recognized several crucial truths. First, being disliked is not a reflection of your worth. It's often a reflection of incompatibility. You don't like every person you meet, and that doesn't make them bad people. They're just not your kind of people. The reverse is equally true. Second, you can't be liked by everyone without being no one. If you're trying to appeal to everybody, you end up standing for nothing. You become bland, generic, forgettable. The most interesting people, the ones who actually make an impact, have critics. They have people who don't understand them, who disagree with them, who actively dislike them. And that's not a bug, it's a feature. Third, being disliked is sometimes a sign you're doing something right. If you're setting healthy boundaries, some boundary pushers will dislike you. If you're being honest, some people who prefer comfortable lies will dislike you. If you're challenging the status quo, defenders of that status quo will dislike you. Their disapproval becomes evidence of your integrity. This cognitive reframe is liberating. It transforms being disliked from a personal failure into a neutral, or even positive, data point about compatibility and values. Here's something crucial. People who are comfortable being disliked aren't indifferent to all relationships. They're selectively invested. They've recognized that time and emotional energy are finite resources. You can't maintain deep, meaningful relationships with everyone. So they make a conscious choice. They invest deeply in relationships with people who align with their values, who appreciate their authentic self, who bring mutual growth. And everyone else, they're polite, respectful, but not particularly concerned with maintaining approval. This is what psychologists call relationship selectivity, and it becomes more pronounced as people develop emotional maturity. You realize that not all relationships are worth the effort of performance. Some relationships are transactional, temporary, or simply not aligned with who you are. And that's okay. The freedom comes from releasing the need to be everyone's favorite person. You stop spreading yourself thin, trying to maintain superficial approval from dozens of people. You concentrate your energy on the few relationships that truly matter. And here's what's interesting. When you do this, the relationships you invest in become deeper and more authentic. Because you're showing up as your real self. You're not managing impressions or performing roles. You're just present. Now we arrive at something deeper, something almost philosophical. Many people who are comfortable being disliked have developed what psychologists call mortality salience, an ongoing awareness that life is finite. They've looked at the brevity of existence and asked themselves a crucial question. Do I want to spend my limited time on Earth performing for people's approval, or do I want to actually live? This perspective shift changes everything. When you truly internalize that you have maybe 70, 80, 90 years on this planet, and a huge portion of that is already gone, the social anxiety around being disliked starts to seem absurd. You realize you're going to die someday. The person whose approval you're seeking is going to die someday. In 100 years, none of this will matter. So why waste your precious, limited time contorting yourself to manage someone else's perception? This isn't nihilism. It's liberation. It's recognizing that the most meaningful life you can live is one that's true to who you actually are, not who others want you to be. People who've integrated this mortality awareness stop sweating the small stuff. They stop obsessing over whether someone at work thinks they're annoying. They stop losing sleep over a negative comment. They zoom out to the cosmic scale and recognize that most social disapproval is temporary, insignificant, and ultimately irrelevant to a life well lived. So what have we really discovered about people who are comfortable being disliked? They've done something most people never do. They've built their self-worth internally, made peace with authenticity over performance, reframed dislike as data rather than devastation, invested selectively in relationships that matter, and integrated the reality of mortality into their daily decision-making. This isn't about being cold or antisocial. It's not about not caring what anyone thinks. It's about discriminating between opinions that matter and opinions that don't. It's about recognizing that your life belongs to you, not to the court of public opinion. The person who's comfortable being disliked has answered a fundamental question. Whose approval do I actually need to live a meaningful life? And the answer, surprisingly, is very few people. maybe just their own. This is radical self-acceptance. It's the recognition that you can't control what others think, but you can control whether you let that dictate your life. Here's what this teaches us about human psychology and the path to genuine freedom. Most of us spend our entire lives trapped in a performance we never consciously agreed to. We're so busy managing other people's perceptions that we forget to ask whether those people's opinions actually matter. The person who's comfortable being disliked has stepped off that treadmill. They've recognized that the approval they were seeking was a moving target, an unwinnable game. So they changed the rules. Maybe the next time you feel that familiar anxiety about being disliked, ask yourself, does this person's opinion actually affect my life in any meaningful way? Does their disapproval change who I am or what I value? Most of the time, the answer is no. And maybe, just maybe, the most important relationship you'll ever have isn't with the people who like you. It's with yourself, the person you see in the mirror every morning, the person whose opinion actually shapes your life. Maybe the deepest form of freedom isn't being liked by everyone. It's being okay with yourself, regardless of who else is or isn't on board. And that freedom? That's worth more than all the approval in the world.